queen of rationalization as well, which kept me in a lot of toxic relationships. But I mean, we can go into that later. But I realized when I was able to kind of name my inner critic, really acknowledge what it was saying, that I finally was able to take my power back. Because I realized how much that narrative was really holding me back. And even though it made so much sense that I developed it and I created this because I did find some success doing that, I realized finally what it was costing me. And I think by acknowledging that it exists, but changing the energy around it to, instead of, if it's trying to support me, then let's give it a new job description to support me in a more effective way. Because what I needed when I was 14 is not what I need now. And I don't need that same level of protection. And so I really kind of try to make amends with my inner critic in the sense to ask it to support me in a different and new way.
So do you actually talk, is the first stage you become aware of actually what is going on in your mind? What are you thinking? Why are you thinking like this? And then you give it a name? Is that what you do?
I do,
oh,
yes.
This is interesting. And how do you give it a name? Can you share with us some of the names you've given?
Yeah, so it's always been one person, and I actually found an object that represented my inner critic, or sometimes I use the word gremlin.
Oh,
and
like it.
Yeah, and so my gremlin is actually it's a toy that I found from McDonald's, and it's this performer. It's this pig from the movie Sing, which I've never seen, but I know it's from that movie, and he looks like a performer. He looks like he's about to jump on stage. But what I did was I put black electrical tape over its mouth because that was my gremlin message. It was, don't show up, don't be seen. You're not perfect enough. Dim your light and sit back down. And when I was able to envision it as something other than me, because I had always labeled my inner critic as this is who I am. I've defined myself as I'm not good enough.
So you were this inner critic?
Yes. But when I remove the inner critic and I put a name to it, I put an image to it, I treat it like an energy outside of myself that was created in a way to protect me, then I end up taking my power back because I don't have to believe that is really who I am.
I see. So you actually detach yourself from it. So when you're detached from it, it isn't actually part of you.
Yeah. It's not really exactly. It's not really a part of me. It's like, it's like I call it my BFF, it's my inner critic is my BFF. It was created to keep me safe.
The BFF, what was that? Sorry.
Yeah, my best friend forever.
Okay. That's called BFF. I don't know that. I'm going to use that. Best friend forever.
Yeah, it's my best friend forever. It was created when I was down, when I needed protection, when I needed to feel safe. I can acknowledge that, and I can acknowledge that it's an energy that sits outside of me that tells me certain things to keep me in a safe place.
Okay.
But then acknowledging it now after so many years of it holding me back, I feel like I can renegotiate with this energy. If I can acknowledge that it has always tried to work itself in my favor, even though it might not be doing it in a way that serves me, I feel like I now have the power to renegotiate their job description with how they can support me now.
Okay, I see. I get that. So once we've done that part, how do you find out who you are? Because this was defining you, wasn't it? And now you haven't got this defining you now. Who are you?
Yeah.
What is defining you? Who is Mandy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think removing that narrative gives me a lot more space to explore the person that I am and the person that I want to be. I think the noise before that story that I was telling myself, it really gave me little to no options of what my life could look like. And so now that I have it supporting me instead, I feel more free to explore my gifts and to share it, because the fear is not as strong as it was before. And the passion, and it's about also exploring my passion. It's a decision that I make, on a daily basis. Am I so passionate about this that I'm willing to risk failure to make the difference that I want? And so really, I feel like who I am is just this person who has so much to offer and share, and wanting to do the same for other women in my community and in whoever I get to interact with. And it's allowing them to also figure out what their gifts are. I found that like before coaching, I described my life like Truman from the Truman Show. Have you ever seen that movie?
I know the name, but I've never seen it. I have never seen it.
So it's with Jim Carrey, and the storyline.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah, yeah, it's with him, and the whole storyline is that he is actually on syndicated television. So he doesn't know he's on syndicated television, but everyone around him is working on a script. His whole life has been scripted for him, and his routine is mundane. It's almost as if tomorrow what's going to happen. The same thing happens the next day, and that's just how we live our life. And I felt that way. I was like a zombie in my life because I just played it so small and so safe. And so now that I'm me and I'm exploring the things that I love, I feel like the world is my oyster. And I feel a level of excitement that I just didn't experience before. And I think a lot of people don't realize that this is all so possible for us if we're willing to, dig deep and let go of some of those old stories that are holding us back. And so I think that's what I really want to share with other women, because now that I've tasted personal freedom and what it feels like, it would be a shame to just keep it all to myself. So I'm glad we're having this conversation right now so we can talk about this.
Yeah, I love the way you've said that, because that was the way you so want to share it, when you've tasted a little bit of this, and, it seems a little bit selfish not to share, it seems a little bit mean that you found something, and perhaps there are many, many other women out there suffering in similar ways to you, and you really want to help them. And I was in a very similar position. So this is fabulous in respect that you've been able to have this transformation, and so you have this freedom. But not only do you have this freedom, you've got this beautiful alignment and this sense of peace, which is, just taking you forward, and so you can explore these things. So really it was that detachment, and then having that space within you to be able to find out, explore, question yourself, do these things, because you're not now having to be perfect. You're not now having to be that people pleaser. So it's, as you say, from an energetic level, that's huge, because negative energy is incredibly... Well, it weighs you down incredibly. I mean, it's, we can't do much anyway when we are, weighed down with a negative mindset, if you like. So wonderful. Yeah, wonderful transformation. And what a fabulous job you're doing, in really getting yourself out there, because of course you wouldn't be able to do any of this if you were still playing small and being perfect, because you'd still be all working it out at home, getting the the perfect blog, the perfect coaching material, looking for the perfect client, and waiting for the perfect radio show to, we'd be recording it about 50 times, I should think. So it's a fabulous place to be in, and I can really feel your your energy and your passion in what you do. So now we've got to this little bit here, or this big bit here, should I say. How does this actually transform your life? So we've managed to detach from that negative chitter-chatter and those old patterns and behaviours that did once serve us but are no longer serving us. So now you've created new behaviours and new patterns. So how does your life, how different is your life? Can you just give us some, perhaps details of clients perhaps you've helped, or yourself, and just so we can really get a taste of what this transformation, involves?
Yeah, so my typical clients, they suffer from perfectionism and control and people pleasing, and how they feel when they're that, and I'm speaking also from personal experience, is the feeling like you are really stuck and you try so many things, but nothing you do seems to make a difference. And one of the things that I also noticed about myself and with my clients is that we're really good at comparing ourselves, and we're really good at looking at other people's stories and saying, why don't I have that? And that feeling really chips away at our self-esteem. So I find that when my clients transition into, really embracing their story and letting go of the idea of perfectionism, because perfectionism really doesn't exist. It's a coping mechanism that we can never achieve, so that we just continue playing small. But when they're able to really transform and see themselves as, completely whole, completely enough, and completely resourceful, that they have unlimited potential, then they start to embrace. And, I always say, like, nurture your own garden, nurture your own story, and they develop a deep sense of gratitude for what they have, because the comparison piece is often really big. I think a lot of women experience it in particular because we believe we have like a ticking clock. We believe that we should have been married by a certain age, that we should have had kids by a certain time frame, that we should have, we should be at a certain point in our career. And seeing other people transition into different milestones and not being able to do the same kills most women's self-esteem. We begin to think, why are we not worthy of those stories? Why are we not worthy of the type of happiness that we see other people have? Am I not good enough? And so those are the women I typically help. The transformation occurs. So what happens after the transformation really is a sense of inner peace, a sense of joy of where they are. Really getting clear on the person that they are and the person that they want to be. So I think a lot of times we're just kind of, really believing into our inner critic and believing the limiting beliefs about who we are. But when we strip that away, we show up so differently. And that energy that we project in the world is met with us. So they end up having healthier relationships. They're a lot more clear in who they want to be. They're a lot more confident when they go out in the world, and they become unapologetic, like people who are big people pleasers like myself, we're so polite. We're always like, I'm sorry. Let me get that for you. Should I have been this way? We like play back stories in our head. Like, should we have done it differently? And that is exhausting. So when we can transition into really loving our story, loving who we are, then we let go of that. And we become just so true to ourselves, so unapologetic for the person that we are, that we don't have to worry about second guessing ourselves or losing a part of ourselves in relationships, or not trusting ourselves when we enter into a new experience or a new situation.
That's so powerful, isn't it? So powerful. And thank you so much for sharing that. That's so even by not focusing, if we just take one little bit of that, So we're not even focusing on creating a better relationship with someone else. That's just part and parcel of what happens when we make those changes.